Oh man, we live.
Here we go. We live in 5. I was gonna say my hands messed up. Here you go. We are.
Did you miss me?
This food is crazy. So we about to get started here shortly. Everybody, Mike. Let me see, Mike. Say something.
Yo.
Can y'all hear Walter?
Yep.
Yeah, say something.
Something.
Did y'all hear X?
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew we are shaking.
Y'all so silly. We about to get started here in 2 seconds. Oh, I gotta show my Houston shirt today. I'm representing H-Town.
I'm gonna play.
Yes, sir. Huh? Okay. Y'all ready?
Chris, we should have put on our Eastwood shirts.
No, it wouldn't have been good.
Brandon, you gonna wear your Polly Perry shirt?
Chris in a for real studio with that mic.
And it don't work. That's the bad boy.
Mic check. Here we go. Hello out there, podcast listeners. This is Corey with Surviving the Podcast. My name is Corey Wilson. We're in season 3. This episode is a Brotherhood smoke episode, so there is several people on this episode. As you can see, we got a full house, but the topic is pretty good. I think the topic is informative. You know, this season we have been touching base on survivor's remorse. We have been talking about surviving COVID and surviving after the pandemic, but some of the things you regret. And so this particular topic, I think is pretty informative, and I think it's going to be some good discussion between these dear brothers here. But before we get started, I'll let everybody introduce themselves.
I'm Kenny P. I work in risk management and compliance.
I'm Chris Hunter. I work in insurance, but primarily I'm a father.
I'm Trey, and I'm a senior financial analyst.
I'm Terrence. I'm a software engineer manager.
I'm X. I'm an accountant.
I'm B. Raj. I work in education.
I'm Wally. I'm a baseball player.
What's going on, y'all? I'm Richard Mudd, CEO of Mudd Productions, content creation company.
Awesome. I'm Corey Wilson, and I work for Barnum and Bailey. So we're here now. So, you know, I start every episode off with a survival tip. So I believe this survival tip is a pretty good one. It's pretty deep one as well, but it's simple and to the point. It says, always have a dependable compass. So with that, Tony, I see you. Tony said all these handsome men woo Chile. Does that say Chile or child?
Oh, child, brother. Chile.
Okay.
That's great.
I'm gonna start over. So today's survival tip is a simple one, and it's always have a dependable compass. So, brothers, what does that mean to you?
All right, I'll take that one. I would say, especially now we're in uncharted territory. Everybody's operating in uncharted territory. So just making sure that you have something to always go back and make sure you're on the right path. I think that's key with everything in the pandemic. It just made it more evident.
Anybody else?
I would say for me, it's make sure that you have the tools to make it to your destination.
Okay.
Well, the way I view it honestly is, it's like, I know a lot of people when they look at the compass, they follow the direction after looking at it one time. But the way I interpret it is sometimes you got to pull out your compass and make sure you head down the right path. It's kind of co-sign what Chris was saying. So it's like constantly making sure you're reminding yourself, constantly having those people around you, being able to make sure that you always checking to make sure you're heading in the right direction. So that's how I interpret it.
Right. And I think it correlates well with the episode that we're talking about today, dabbling in the deep end, going beyond your comfort zone. And, to make sure you have a dependable compass. That means that don't be afraid to travel, but always make sure that when you travel, make sure you have the right guide. And, that can be in a biblical sense, I believe. It can also be in sense of your mentors, those who are around you. But just don't be afraid to take that chance. So that was a good survival tip. It was brought by brother Chris Hunter. So we're going to get right into it. So, when we talk about the pandemic, the pandemic brought a hard reset for a lot of people. And what that means is, for a year, you couldn't really do anything. Either you work from home, a lot of people were laid off. People had to try different career paths. Life just really happened for a lot of people. But at the same time, there were a lot of people who had a generic job, who just pushed that button, came in, clocked in, do what they need to do when they left. At the same time, talking about that, when we go beyond our comfort zone, there's a thing called complacency that prevents us from exploring other options. So let's talk about that, brothers. Like, what does that look like to you when you talk about not taking those chances, when you do that hard reset on yourself and you're still complaining about the same things? Like pre-COVID, it was like, man, I hate my job. I hate my life. I hate this. And now you had an opportunity to reset and do something different, and you're still taking the same approach and you're making the same complaints.
I'll start. I think fear plays a huge part in that. As long as fear is involved, you're gonna always be scared to go out there and take that extra step. Because if you think about the stock market, it's always fear about losing money. Crypto is about fear of losing money. It's about fear of the COVID, what's going on, getting out there, because you might catch it, you might die. It's always the worst case scenarios that people project their fears upon you. So if you allow that negative energy and those negative expectations on you, like it's gonna always play in your mind, and you're gonna always be afraid to go take that extra step because you're looking at the worst case scenario instead of looking at something positive. Like Michael Jordan said in The Last Dance, he said the doctor told him, what if you had, it was 10 pills and 9 of them was gonna heal you and 1 of them was gonna kill you. And he said, well, how bad is my headache? But most people be like, they scared of that 1 pill, so they wouldn't even give it a try. And fear is the biggest determinative factor on why we're afraid to go out there on the limb and do what we want to do what we're passionate about doing what we love to do. Because generally it's all about money. What's gonna make us the most money and comfort.
I like that. Anybody else?
I jump in. I think on the opposite side, I think the fear is okay. I think that's what makes you realize that you're human, and at the same time, that's what causes you to be careful when you decide to do something new. It's the human nature to be, I feel like, safe. And that's where the complacency comes into me, because we are just instinctually wired to be safe and do what's comfortable and do what makes us happy without going above and beyond. But take, for example, things like driving a car. Like when you start driving a car as a teenager, it's exciting, but at the same time, it's scary because you got your life in your own hands, right? But one day you got to start driving the car. You got to get into traffic. You got to get on the highway, and you got to understand that it's a progression as you start making baby steps to the goal that you want to achieve. Like some people want to put hundreds of thousands of dollars into Bitcoin, and those people might be the millionaire or they might go broke, but they're willing to take that risk. But other people tend to do like $5, $10, watch it jump to 100, and then you see put in 50. Like you make small calculated you start to make small calculated decisions to get there. So I kind of think that if people were to reset, think about it like driving a car. When you first do it, you remember the brake, you remember the stick shift, if people still remember clutches and all that stuff. There's a lot of things that come with driving a car when you start off, but nowadays when you drive the car at an older age, people barely remember how they get to work. They just start to show up at work. So if you start to think about that transition from driving the car and how much you felt when you were younger to now, oh, I'm doing amazing. I really don't remember getting in the car. I don't remember sitting in traffic. So it initially started off with fear, but you can understand that progression from fear to what becomes normal, and that normal becomes what you excel at, and, you know, so on and so forth. So it's kind of like a snowball, in my opinion.
I like that. You know, Mud, you being an entrepreneur, and, you know, and actually in that mindset of like, if I don't work, I don't eat. How do you every day rebrand, reintroduce yourself to stay current and also to stay, I guess, financially stable, with that, you know, without being complacent?
Right. So I first want to say that one of the quotes that I really like is "comfort is the enemy," and so I always force myself to try to do things that force me to become uncomfortable, because once that comfort and complacency goes hand in hand, if you ask me, because once you get comfortable, as you know, the rest of the brothers were saying, you stay on that straight path and you never really achieve anything greater. And also too, if I go into my real answer, I just wanted, because fear was the word that was brought up. Actual term that I learned that was an acronym is fear. F stands for fake experiences being real, meaning everything that you fear is most of the time it's a what if. It's not nothing that is actually tangible. You see what I'm saying? And so just to answer your question, personally, what I do is I try to always keep up with what's going on new within the world. And so personally, I do content creation. Right now, I'll be honest, holding a camera is the way I make the least amount of my money. And you may think that's crazy because I'm a videographer. But what I do is I have to come up with content strategies for companies, build out calendars. I'm starting to teach and do internships. I'm about to come out with some, you know, kid stuff. I'm always finding new ways to make new income. And so for me, I find it fun being able to find new ways to make income within my same craft. And so that's kind of how I got through Corona, honestly, because obviously when things were going on, like I specialize in event photography and videography. There were no events going on. So I had to adjust. And the good thing is too, and I'll just end with this, especially as a young entrepreneur, I just made sure I saved my money. And so, I mean, I'm glad I have good mentors in my life, but I just learned not to, you know, I could have got the Mercedes Benz, but I went and got a Chevy Malibu. You know, I could have bought the Balenciagas, but I got some Nike instead. So it's like making those small sacrifices in the shortcoming. No one see Corona coming, but I didn't make those decisions. But pre-Corona, I promise you, I'll probably be out of business right now.
What kind of Nikes you got, man? Some of them ain't cheap. What kind of Nikes we talking about? We talking about Air Cortez. You talking about the Air Cortez boys? Is that?
Hey, man, look, I'm let's not disclose. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Bud, you hit on something that resonated with me, man. When you talked about fear, one thing that I've realized personally is a lot of the fears and phobias that I had prior to COVID, I've noticed they subsided because nobody saw this coming. And this is the thing that's affected all of us. So, you know, you're correct. And when you step back and you realize that fear is a placebo, a lot of times, it goes back to, you know, we're hardwired to look for things that cause us, could be harmful, right? If I see a bug that's bright red, I probably won't go touch it. But it may be ladybug. Right, so it's the reality of stopping and analyzing the situation instead of being paralyzed with fear, like Kenny said. So, Mud, that was perfectly said, man.
I appreciate it, brother.
You know, I use the example, like when, you know, in Texas, when we got the power to choose our electricity, and you know, in Houston it's Reliant Energy, in Dallas it was TXU Energy, and for you to have to say, okay, now I have a power to choose. A lot of people did not move. The whole point was to deregulate the industry and allow people options to make competitive choices when it came to electricity. But you had people who would not move. I know my family, for one, was like, no, I'm not leaving, because if the power go out, they're gonna show love to Reliant first. They're not gonna show love to these other one-off companies. And I was like, they don't control electricity. You know, I was like, what you call it? Centerpoint controls it, and then in Dallas, Encore. But you know, you have that. It's that fear. Like I can't. You start making up these, and I'm not gonna say that they're misnomers. I'm not gonna say that they're falsehoods. But you start talking yourself out of making that jump. You know what I'm saying? Or doing those things that you know that you have an option to do. It's the complacency of it all. Like I'm comfortable coming here, driving this way, and that's how when sometimes that's how people get robbed because they take that same route home. They just know, you know, I'm do this, and people watch you. They meticulously watch you, and then they'll catch you slipping. But if you go beyond your comfort zone and you start to realize, and I'm not, you know, I don't want to just pin it to employment, but just all things. Sometimes we feel like we have it all together, and there should be no edits. Mm-hmm. You should never ever get to a point like even when you reach your goals, you should still have a notepad to see how can I streamline them, or how can I like mark this for somebody else? How can I prevent somebody else going through the trials and tribulations I went through to get where I am? But people, we don't think like that, especially as a culture. You know, we really are very one-off and simple mind. Like I made it. Now you get to it. And, you know, I'll wait on you at the finish line, but I'm not going to show you how I got to it because, and, you know, and that leaves a lot of people behind into that complacency mode. So what do you guys think about that when you take those calculated risks and chances?
I would say for me, I started taking chances because of COVID, because something that I didn't ever realize was like, what is the legacy you're going to leave at when you're gone, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's your last name gonna mean? You got to take risks. You got to be able to do more. You got to bring more. You got, you know, so when your kids and your grandkids and stuff like that, they're gonna remember that, you know, you were the one who took the risk to build a legacy for their last name. So when their last name means something, they can say, I remember when such and such did this, or I remember when, you know, Kenny, you know, jumped out there and he invested in Bitcoin, and you know that Bitcoin he invested in him at the beginning and it hit. He made all this money. Now we got generational wealth.
Yeah.
But see, I think that goes back to kind of what you just hit on, Corey. When you talk about your compass, we talk about the people around you, right? And you talk about, oh, I'm gonna go get it, and then I'll meet you at the finish line. Well, that's a part of your compass. Your compass is supposed to be, you know, I can talk to these people around me about the moves that I'm making, and we can kind of collaborate. Because sometimes when we go into things, you know, on our own, it can seem overwhelming. You know what I'm saying? Especially if we're keeping it in our own head. You know what I'm saying? We're not talking to anybody about it. But when you start, I find for me personally, when I start talking it out with the people around me, number one, it helps me to work it out for myself, and it also helps them along the way if it's a move that we can all make together.
That makes sense. It makes total sense.
You got to surround yourself with people that's going to push you, though.
For sure.
Because if you surround yourself with people that ain't doing nothing and they good with where they are, you're not going to grow yourself. And that goes for me when I was a teacher. I mean, I loved my job. I loved everything about it. But I started getting too complacent. It became too easy for me. It wasn't much of a challenge for me anymore. So I started feeling a little bit different, you know, walking into the, you know, job every day. I started to see that I had leadership abilities, and sometimes I would sleep on it. But then I had people that surrounded me that encouraged me to, you know, go back to school and get that next degree, get that master's degree, and elevate yourself and become more than what you are, because you can reach kids, you know, further if you're in a different position, because you're holding yourself to this one campus when you can reach a whole district at some point. Right. So surrounding myself with people that push me is where, you know, what got me to where I am, and I'm continuing to grow. I'm not done. I'm still growing.
To that point, Raj, like I say the worst thing you can be or have around you is a leech. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody says, oh, you know, you shouldn't go in looking for something out of a relationship. Yes, you should. I feel like every particular relationship that you have, whether it be friendship, whether it be, you know, intimate relationship, whatever it may be, every relationship you have should be a give and take. Yeah. You should only be ever given into a relationship, or you shouldn't only ever be taken out of a relationship. That's called a leech. Like if you're given into a relationship 100%, you have a leech, or if you're taken out 100%, if you're not giving anything back in, you are the leech.
And I'll add to this: if you're the top man in your circle, you in the wrong circle.
Yes, sir.
I never really understood. Can we break that one down? I never really understood that, because I hear people say that, like, if you're the only one on top, you need to be moving around, and I'm like, success looks different for everybody. So
that's not saying you can't bring your friends with you, but you need to be getting with other people who have done what you've done or more, so you can do what you do and more. So it's not saying that, I'm not saying leave your circle, but I'm just saying your circle needs to change if you're the top man in it. You need to find somebody, like I said, you need to find somebody who's doing what you're doing or better. But because somebody that's doing better, somebody that's doing more can pour into you, can tell you how you got there, can do, you know what I'm saying? Like
knowledge.
Wouldn't that come from like a mentor and not necessarily be like a circle? Wouldn't that come from like?
It could come from either. Like I said, it could come from either. Because like I said, your mentor necessarily not gonna always be accessible. I mean, but your circle may be more accessible.
Somebody once said, I can't remember who said this, but if I can look at your friends, I can tell your future. Mm-hmm. And man, that was heavy for me, man. That was heavy for me, because it say a lot about who you hang around. Like, I was talking with Chris yesterday, man, and we talked about literally like constantly trying to reinvent ourselves so we're not staying complacent. The problem we have in society is once you change your mind, now the ideology is I was wrong, and nobody wants to admit that they're wrong. So what happens is they stay stuck and they don't try to evolve and elevate themselves. And that's the problem kind of we have in society. I see you want to say something. Go ahead, Corey.
Oh no, I'm learning right here, because I've heard that before. But see, I've always been a person where, like, and I might be wrong in my thought process, but everybody moves differently. And I thought more so a circle was like a trusted circle, not so much a kind of one-up circle. Now, I'm not saying one-up, and maybe that's the wrong word, but more so like a successful circle. But like, I have people in my life from way back from high school who didn't go to college. And so, for me, a lot of us, our friends, like when we get together, we don't even talk about education, because everybody moved different. They're successful. They haven't went without. They work hard. They work, like, go to work every day, do what they have to do. But I don't look at them like, you know what I mean? Like, you need to get like me. And I'm not saying that's so it kind of throws me a little bit when people say stuff like, your circle, because to me, I don't have any architect friends. I have only one. And they live in Kent, Washington, and we went to college together, and we just eat, breathe, and sleep architecture. But none of my friends are architects. And and Purnell, I didn't mean to name drop, but my boy Purnell is moving to Florida next week. But we, you know what I'm saying? But like, outside of that, that's my whole career. That's my eat, breathe, and sleep.
But I didn't. When I'm in mine, I'm not saying they have to be in the same field that you're in. I'm saying you need to get around people who are more successful in what they do. I'm not necessarily saying got to be in what you do. I'm saying, like, I got people who I know for sure have done more, been more executive vice presidents, but I've been knowing him since I was 12, 13 years old, you know. But, what I'm saying, we exchange, and he helps me, when I have questions, stuff like that, he pour into me. And then, like I said, I got people around me who I can pour into based on information. I can link them up. I can get them, get him, connect, it's just, for me, like I said, you want to make sure you're not the top man at the totem pole. That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah. I
would say personally, so I understand both viewpoints from being around those more successful, and also to keep me in the same friend group, being somebody who does try to balance both. But the thing that I learned, and that me and my mentor actually talked about recently, was I just surround myself around people I can learn from or I gain knowledge from. So and when it comes down to it, we even have this discussion of, like, you can even learn something from a homeless person. And, like, nothing to get home to, they're like, what can you learn from a homeless person? Well, I'm like, shit, you can learn how not to become homeless. So my thing is, that's my viewpoint when it comes to that. And just to hit on one point that you said earlier, about people not wanting to get out the game once they make it to a certain, stage, particularly talking about, us. What I have to say to those people, if you watching this, is my thing is, if you feel like you're giving out too much game, that means you don't know enough game. Point blank period.
Well, and I say, Trey, I looked at it from a different perspective when you said that, because I see 9 faces on the screen, right? And or when you said you were talking about literal architects, but we're all architects. I mean, everyone on this screen is open to sharing our viewpoint, and not sharing with the goal of changing somebody's mind, but sharing with the goal of allowing the other to share. It's that communal. It's surrounding yourself with people that will hold you accountable, in the sense that you have to articulate what you're going through. And Walt, I believe that's what you were saying earlier, right? You have to have people that you can have these conversations with, become a sounding board. So that's where, if it's always people come to you for advice, and you don't have anybody that you can bounce stuff off of, you're probably moving in the wrong circle.
I agree. I definitely agree with that.
Man, I learned something today.
Because I always look at it like this though: transfer energy. If you keep giving out energy, boom, 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 and nobody putting it back into you, at some point you deplete it.
That's fact. Yeah.
You gotta have your cup refilled, just like you when you letting out.
Yeah.
I'm trying. But what, moving the complacency and going, the big debate right now is the mask and taking the mask off and et cetera, et cetera. I knew it would be a backlash. Everything is turned political in this world we live in now. But my argument is, what's wrong with the Lysol and the Clorox and the mask and stuff? That means you didn't have good hygiene in the beginning. So it shouldn't be an argument like, are we pushing you out your comfort zone? Because we want you to keep those practices. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a common, like, it's just like common, like people, man, I didn't wash my hands. Well, that means you really wasn't washing your hands in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So
you've been nasty.
So like,
I work with some folks.
Oh, I do too.
You just be sitting there, you see them shoes, they don't stop at the sink, and they go back out, and you like, all right, and they like, you like,
and that's who made the potato salad.
Exactly.
And unseasoned chicken.
And unseasoned.
The only thing worse than that is when they go to the sink and they just run some water on their hands and walk out. It's like
you do that.
Just nasty.
And you just got off the toilet and doing that. You ain't even take a pee. You got off the toilet and did that, bro.
Right.
Like, nah. They want to shake my hand when we walk down the hallway. Nah, I'm good, bro.
But let me caveat a little bit, since I don't think y'all was ready for this twist, but being that we all in the Greek world, we all are members of an organization, probably the greatest organization ever created on this side of heaven. And COVID, it shut everything down. There was nothing you could do. You couldn't do anything. And so this was an opportunity for you to reset, restart, get motivated, rediscover your purpose. Do you feel that because of COVID and where we stand, have we become complacent as organizations? We're accepting the norm and we're just doing our part, like we're checking the boxes and we're pushing on, or are we really out there pushing buttons and going above and beyond? I like to hear that. Are we dabbling in the deep end as fraternities of Divine Nine?
Whew, man.
Personally, I think so. Right. So we had Brother Robinson talking about conversations about how can we better use technology? How can we spread out to more of the younger folk? How can we use the tools that we got, that we know we got, to be better? You know what I'm saying? Like we know as a personal fraternity that we have tools and we communicate, but how can we use technology to move faster, to move better, and move more efficient? Like the those type of topics have been brought to the table. And actually, we've seen some solutions from a membership side, some of the solutions that have been put in place to help us move faster. How can we collect money a little bit better? How can it be more efficient? How can we get rid of fees by switching to a different technology? I mean, I've seen it. I've heard some of the conversations about it as well. So I think that we're definitely guided and led by people that are keeping technology in ways we can move in a very solid direction. Personally,
I think that's a yes and a no on that question, because I think I've seen brothers try to implement that and it just hasn't been so successful because it's kind of this weird space and we're just kind of testing it out to see exactly what we can do. And we want it to be successful, but then we also have those brothers that are older that I'm not into all that computer stuff. Help me set this up, do this. I don't believe in that. So you gotta kind of find that sweet spot. But I definitely think the things that we learned during COVID, we should keep implementing. So you have those, once things start opening back up, we can still keep the internet-based things like that to kind of broaden our spectrum and make it a little bit easier.
I'm gonna agree with you on from a chapter leadership standpoint, because you gotta understand, like during COVID, we experienced a time where everybody was experiencing it together, but everybody also in different walks of life had very different experiences during COVID. You have, and once you look at a chapter, you have those different walks of life come to one, because you got some people in there that were still able to work throughout. You got those essential workers that still was able to go into the office or work from home each and every day. But then you got some of the people that they got laid off or their job was no longer there. So now I'm dealing with, how do I keep my lights on versus how do I support my fraternity? And at the end of the day, if I got a family, that's what comes first. So you do start getting into the box of, all right, this has to take a back seat for now, and maybe I can become, a little more engaged or get back into the fold after COVID is over or after the dust has settled for everything.
Yeah, well, we got to call a spade too. It's really difficult to have brotherhood virtually.
It is,
and that's the difficult part of it. While we can talk about technology and everything, but true brotherhood is authentic and actually more face to face. That's the battle, kind of with the gravitational pull between the young and the old, like Teddy B was talking about and X was talking about. Like, there's a battle there because they don't want to get to this technology because some may be complacent, but then there's the younger generation that want to kind of change things up. So how do you balance that out? And that's kind of where we are right now. So for me, I think the answer would be yes and no. There has been ideas thrown around and there's some good things, but implementation on everything hasn't fully been developed yet.
Much, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and go. I would say that I feel like also it's a yes and no. I would say that I do feel as if a lot of the times, especially when it comes to trying to the social media thing and the technology, in a sense, it's like we focus more on how creative and how much we can stand out rather than the impact that it will have. And so I feel as if it's a mindset that needs to be switched because, me personally, I'm a videographer, and honestly, almost every chapter in DFW area hires me for videography. So I see these chapters doing great things from an entertainment standpoint, and but it's like it's just where does the service come in? It's like just drop a charity link at the back of the video on your strobe video, or during the strobe video, take 10 seconds to do something. It's like I just want to make sure that everything that we do as a fraternity goes towards what it is that we pledge to do, which will serve our communities. And that I think that's the main problem right now. So I do feel as if we are, forced to make this adjustment. And honestly, we're forced to make it quick because COVID, nobody seen it coming. And therefore, it was a curveball. And although we are making the adjustment, it's like the main thing that needs to be the focus is what is the main goal and impact of what it is we are doing. We're not trying to look cool. And I'm just going to put this out there. I've been at Alpha only for 4 years now. I'm not going to say only 4 years now, right? and I haven't seen not one alpha ad. Ads cost, I mean, I run ads for my company all the time. They cost $10 a week, and I can reach 1.2 million people. And so it's like we complain and about not being able to reach, but we don't even, go through our whole use all our resources. Shot o'clock.
I was echoing what you're saying. We don't utilize. We don't push the. We don't know how. That's why I was like. Somebody was asking. Oh, somebody asked what X was drinking. I'm gonna be the bad guy.
I wanted to know that. I was like, he's drinking milk. I was like, is that milk?
Yeah, he always drinking some.
It's a peanut butter whiskey.
And, okay.
A cream liqueur. So it tastes like a white chocolate Reese's peanut butter cup.
Oh, that's okay.
So if you got free time, y'all check that out.
I just got hungry, but
Right.
I want some candy now. Thank you.
Okay. But I believe we are complacent. I believe we are complacent. I believe we a little bit what Mud said. We are quick to check a box. We're quick to get that photo out, and if we can't get a photo out, we're not doing it. We're not touching it. And the biggest excuse, we love to say, it's COVID. It's COVID. But you'll see the same people out there migrating through COVID. But like I tell people all the time, and there are mandates. You do have to adhere to certain policies, and we can't gather as a group. We have mandates, CDC and Alpha and all these organizations. We adhere to those policies. But as I continue to say, it don't cost you nothing to be a good person. The service don't stop. There's still people out there who need. There's still people out there without. The demand for the education system. Everybody, all roads lead back to teachers. They're underpaid, but they feel like they should go back into the classroom. That was one of the biggest political hotspots, and it's still a political nightmare, whether they vaccine or not, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they require those teachers to buy those supplies, and you have these families who are getting these major payouts, but the technology is being provided by the school, but if it breaks, the parent is not being proactive and saying, let me buy my baby their own laptop. You know what I'm saying? Let me use some of this stipend or COVID money and pour back into my child. It's the demand on the teacher. And I think what I'm trying to get at is that this was the opportunity for us to do a reset and kind of modernize some things, not change, because I'm not a radical person, but like some of the things that we practice and we know dear and true work, it's not going to really work coming out of COVID. COVID has forever changed who we are as a population, as a people. And I feel like we have become to this point where we're just okay with being okay. And we'll just say, but if there's a day party, if there's the opportunity for us to get out there and, do those we're going to be there. But it's the actually getting at the think table and trying to find innovative ways to extend and get beyond our comfort zone. Like people are still not voting. We did get a great turnout for the presidential election, but the local elections were terrible. People just did not vote. But where was that opportunity at? Did we miss it? Did we actually come to the table with some opportunities to try to get that? And that's what I mean. Like, we don't go beyond our comfort. We fear a lot, and we operate on fear. Just general GP. We all operate on fear, and I don't think that we actually pushed ourselves beyond, because I still hear people debate on bar mitzvahs, and I'm being facetious, but botillions and banquets and stuff like that. I can't wait to get back to that. What is the sole purpose? To raise funds, and so I like. I saw the popcorn initiative go out, and a lot of chapters and organizations have been rolling that out, and it's been successful. We have to find other ways to raise funds, because these large population events are hard to come by. It's going to be a while before you get back to the sold out place of 500 crystals. But that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with everything. It's like, what are we really, really, really doing? Are we really taking chances? And and taking risks, calculated risks to fail fast, to start over, to redo, and or is it because we're scared to, or we scared for the backlash if we will, go beyond that box? You know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm at on the nature of organizations versus COVID.
Well, and I would say, I mean, we're talking about organizations, but we could circle back to the conversation we started with, was, looking at ourselves personally and being introspective. And that's what Kenny and I were discussing yesterday. Yeah, and what we're talking about now has to become the practice. The window hasn't closed. I was riding in the car with my son, and he said, "Dad, it's almost normal." And I thought about it, and I realized normal doesn't exist. Normal is what every day is. So this is the recalibration. So we can't look and say what we should have been doing, because now we know. So now that we're all aware, how do we move forward? But it can't just be within our organization. It can't just be that work. It has to be across the board. It has to be a life practice.
I agree.
And personally, this is a quick comment. I see a lot of brothers and personally are involved in, some things going on outside of the fraternities. So what I would say is, for the brothers who do have these good things going on, I'm not going to put any names out there, but I just got off a planning meeting right before this call. It's involved the fraternities, because we do have a support system. One thing I will say about Alpha since I crossed it is, once I put it out there and let people know what it is and I'm trying to achieve, I've always had support. And so for the brothers that's watching this that are doing things that is out here, can make an impact, stop trying to put your own personal name on it. Let's get a group together so we can have a bigger impact.
Yeah, I agree. So to bring it back full circle, what would you tell someone who's contemplating on maybe making a career change, or contemplating on moving to another city, or taking a chance and taking a risk, or maybe changing careers altogether? Like, what's some of the things you can leave them with for them to not feel as though they'll later on regret it? Or, like myself, I'm an entrepreneur as well, but I don't ever want my side hustle to get so big to where I depend on the side hustle to eat. And, a lot of people say, Corey, you really sell yourself short. So what advice would you give somebody like that? Like, take the risk, because I'm not a risk taker.
If you fall down, it ain't the end of the world. You can reset. You can start back over. And whatever it is, if you move, you can always come back home. If you change career fields, if you've been doing what you've been doing for a long time, you can come back to that career field. It's reset. It's all possible. You know what I'm saying? Even what you're doing, a reset is possible.
I would say get out there and network. So if you're interested in a different career path, get out there and surround yourself with some of the people that's already in that career, and start networking and communicating and getting some mentors out there, and put yourself out there and see if that's exactly what you want to do. If not, the sky's the limit.
I say trust your gut. I mean, especially if you have a history of success, right? I mean, you know what it takes to get where you want to go. So analyze, is your fear rational? What's the worst that could happen? And most of the time, you can't even figure out what's the worst that could happen. So I would say the worst that could happen is you miss that opportunity. You let fear limit your true potential.
Yeah, also with fear, though, you need to understand it's a mindset change, though, because you can't limit yourself, and you have to go in there with the understanding that you are limitless, and you really have to believe in yourself that whatever you want to do is going to work. And if there is a failure, you can't look at it as failure, but you have to look at it, change your mindset as a learning opportunity. And I think a lot of us just look at failure as a negative, but we don't look at it as a learning opportunity. So there's so many times that people project everything upon us that we don't really actually do and think for ourselves. So it really comes with a mindset shift. We have a paradigm shift with our mind to literally just understand, like, I'm a limitless being. I can do anything, because we all here breathing. So we all understand that life always works itself out. Life is just really literally a thought. Like, this was a thought. Being on this technology was a thought. Being on the airplane was a thought. So we have to understand, like, let's not limit ourselves. Let's do what we want to do without everybody else kind of telling you no, 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 and then those few yeses. Because everybody looks for a job and you get 1,000 no's, but that one yes is what's gonna make you happy. It's the same thing, man. So like that's the mindset shift that we have to actually get into.
Yeah, and I would agree wholeheartedly. And I would say the things I would say is plan and stay consistent. A lot of people love to hop into something without a plan, and then they wonder why they failed. So I would say plan, stay consistent. And one thing, I mean, I say find works for you. Me, I like quotes. If y'all can't tell by now, like, I like quotes. I make my own quotes. I watch YouTube videos, find quotes, but I do whatever I need to for, like Kenny said, to stay in my mindset. And so one thing that I came up with the other day was learn, apply, complete. Learn, that means plan, stay consistent, find out everything you need to know about it before you hop into it. Apply it, because a lot of people never get out of the learning stage because they're too scared and they fear what's going to happen next. And after you apply it, complete it. Because a lot of people, that's good at a lot of stuff but not great at anything. And so it's like the only way to become great is to keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I was saying.
I would say pray for it, plan for it, produce it. So you know, I don't think you should make any move without praying about it first, you know, talking to God about it. I'll go with it along with what Mud said. Like Corey, I'm not a risk taker, but if I'm gonna take a risk, I'm gonna plan for it. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna put myself in that predicament to where if it doesn't work out the first time, like you said, you got to stay consistent at it, but you still got to have a plan in the meantime. And then the last thing is, you know, production. Make it happen.
Let me just say, let me take it back. I am a risk taker, but I didn't know if we didn't have any for the group. But now that I know we have one who doesn't, I'm gonna go ahead. I do take risks, but I didn't want to. I wanted y'all to talk to somebody who did. I am a risk taker. You know, I believe in failing fast. I believe in just getting out there, you know, fucking some shit up. And hey, if it don't happen, it don't happen. But I do plan too. Now, people who take risks, don't get it twisted. We are planners as well. But you know, I was reading somewhere today, like Mus, I'm an avid reader. If they said if you are discussing your dreams with somebody who keeps telling you why you shouldn't, get away, move fast, because you know when they say, "Oh man, you better than me, man," couldn't be me. I'm not you. And that needs to be your last conversation to those people, because they're going to always keep you right above water. Like you're going to be right here at all times. You'll never be able to come above or grow higher because you're not willing to take that chance. Like he's not going to put nothing on you that you can't handle. Like he ain't going to put nothing on you. And if you go to sleep every night, you know, like Sister Act 2, if you wake up every morning and you're thinking about something, like straight up, you need to take that chance. But some people still be like, man, I want to be an accountant, but I'm gonna stay a teacher. You know, I'm gonna do it. You know, and then or like, you know, they fall on teaching, because I think there's a passion that comes with an educator, and I think people don't understand that. They're not successful in their careers, and they say, well, I'm gonna just go be a teacher. It's not fair, because now you're just getting a paycheck. You didn't go through school to determine this is really what you wanted to do. And so that's why I tell people, man, don't be afraid to fail fast. And if you around the right people and you got some good people in your life, they're not gonna let you fail. You know, they're gonna always have their hands on you. And you know, I have a story. I was just telling somebody the other day, you know, like, man, I found some money that I didn't even know I had, like you know, through Amazon Pay. But I'm not giving it out. But I'm just saying, like, you know,
20?
I've been backed into a corner to where I have to, you know, pay out some major cash, and so I had to move some money around everything. But I was doing some things, and I looked up on this nest that I didn't know that I even had, and it's because I accept Amazon Pay, you know, and through my website, and for the past 2 years. There was an influx of money there that I didn't even know existed. And the only reason I haven't gotten it is because I didn't link it to a bank account yet. But that's going to help me tremendously with, you know, some of this stuff that I got to take care of, you know. But at the end of the day, it's just, you know, it's like.
Everybody ain't able.
The people are out here.
Money little laying around.
The people out here, they out here. Beware. Watch your people around you too, because sometimes the people who be rooting you on, they be planting seeds to blow your ass up when you run by them too. So that old fake care and that fake concern, fake fuck you. So respect. My bad, but I'm sorry. But yeah, everybody else.
I would say surround yourself with people that truly care about you, who truly love you and want to push you. Even with Corey, you struggled with taking this position that you got now. You talked about that for 2-3 years, and you kept putting it off. And I was telling you, bruh, get your ass out of Texas. Get out of Texas and stuff. And now you back here, so you got bigger and better things going on. Walt, we have our talks all the time and stuff. He tells me, "Hey, you got it, bro. Do it. Just surround yourself with people who really truly care about you, who not afraid to tell you when you're wrong. Because sometimes you might be trying to take a risk.
You're wrong.
You be like, hey, bro, I'm about to sell my house and start this lemonade stand in Nebraska. You be like, I don't know if that's the move, bro. Like, but it's like the thing. But yeah, just surround yourself with people that truly care about you, who are not afraid to tell you the truth, and who love you and want to see you do better.
Right. Well, any other last words, brothers?
I think my last piece is, to understand that God has designed, my belief, right? My belief is that God has designed us and programmed us to constantly excel in a particular way. And the devil is trying to keep us the opposite way. That's why people who are complacent, they're not really happy, but they'll take it. They don't get that fulfillment. They can take it, but it's kind of like the first, some of the first people on this earth, God showed them the ability of fire, right? And if they were complacent, they're like, nah, that's too hot. I don't really mess with that. But things like fire, and we just kept it and we kept rolling on it. We're evolutionary human beings. We're designed to take what we learn. We're designed to take new concept and to keep growing on it and improving it for our own self-worth. So my true belief is that we're designed to keep growing, keep evolving into something better for whatever path that we take. And I think that if people just ingest that possibility, like God is giving you the thoughts, the ideas, like how can I be better? What can I do to make my situation better? I think that, in my opinion, that's how you move forward. You accept the fact that you're thinking about it in the first place and you ingest it. And you just keep moving forward because that's what we were designed to do as human beings.
Yeah. Growth is not comfortable. You can't grow and be comfortable at the same time.
Dawn said it. She enjoyed the conversation. If you really want to sell your house to start that lemonade stand, she got you. So, but brothers, I really I appreciate y'all because one thing about a brotherhood is that, like you said, you don't have to agree all the time. You won't agree all the time, but you surround yourself with good people and you can learn some things from one another. And so I really value y'all's opinion on here, these particular brothers. And it's a lot more out there, but that conversation always needs to be had. You have to be legit about what you're doing, strategic about what you do it all the time. So again, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to jump out on that deep end. Don't be afraid to go beyond your comfort zone. And, and sometimes, hey, you either live to tell about it or somebody will tell your story and say, man, Corey's a brave soul. He jumped off that mountain, but he didn't make it.
That's that legacy, though.
Yeah.
That legacy.
So, until next time, thank y'all. Let me end this.